So I thought this day was going to be a little bit slower on the news front. I was actually planning to do a Nintendo video talking about how I didn't think variable pricing was necessarily a great idea for the industry. But given the news that we have from Xbox today, I might just kind of take that opinion and wrap it up into this video. So if you haven't heard, Xbox has decided to raise prices on series consoles, basically 20% across the board. If you want to know what that kind of means, it's basically $100 on any series console, hardware-wise. I think I saw a Series S suggested retail at about $380, which is absolutely wild to me. This is a worldwide price increase too. This is not a US price increase. I know that they cited market conditions. I've seen a lot of people pointing to tariffs, and I will not sit here and say that tariffs played no part in this, but the fact that it's a worldwide increase of such a large percentage relative to the tariffs makes me kind of suspicious that this is really just them doing something that they wanted to do for a while now anyways, and tariffs are kind of just a convenient excuse to be able to do that. Also, we got the news today that they are going to be increasing prices on some games to $80 before the holiday season. Now, these are games that already exist. They may also raise prices like on Doom the Dark Ages. I don't know where they stand on what games they're going to raise and how soon. But we did get that news as well, which is kind of crazy because they're already existing projects. They're digital products for the most part. I know there are still some physical out there, but they are still digital products. And also, these are games that have already had their investment, right? Like they've already spent the money to make the game. So you're not trying to say, well, hey, we're using, even though they're claiming that's to justify increased development costs, but they're increasing prices on games that already had their development costs and they decided to release at 70. So to me, that seems kind of bananas, because if you're going to say it's increased development costs, it really should be on new products or products going forward, not products that are already on the market that can be purchased today. And the fact that you're not specific at all about which titles you're going to be raising is also a bit eyebrow raising, to say the least. It's definitely a bit suspicious. I will say that I think for the industry, this is probably not the cash cow that they think it is. If you look at just the 6 years that we've had, roughly 6 years, since we've gone from a base 60 price to a base 70 price, I think it's very easy to say that we have seen an overall dip in sales, and that's even with a couple years of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, keeping people inside far more than they otherwise normally would be, and artificially inflating demand. Well, not artificially, but like inflating demand beyond what it would be in a normal situation. I don't think that if they keep raising prices that they're going to see a consequential increase in revenue. Quite frankly, I think the whole idea of reintroducing variable pricing, an idea that we did away with in the 90s and over 30 years ago, is it's a bit of a be careful what you wish for scenario, right? We did away with the variable pricing for a reason. That reason being is because then a studio who starts a project has a very much more concrete idea of their price point, which makes the idea of evaluating it and investing in it much easier for them. Now we're going to have price points all over the place. You're going to have consumers getting more discerning with how they make their purchases, which means they're going to be getting even more picky, which means there are even more products that could potentially fail, more games that could potentially flop. Like, I don't think the industry has truly thought through the ramifications of these decisions. They just keep on thinking with the idea of, oh, how do we, increase growth, because they exist in a industry where they have stockholders and everything is about growth. The truth is, if the only way you can think of is to increase prices is to increase growth, then you have a very lazy way of thinking about business. And I don't necessarily think that these particular price increases will play out revenue-wise for these companies the way that they think they will. I also think you are now going to give an even greater advantage to projects that are made by these AA studios. Projects like, the Warhammer Space Marine game, projects like Expedition 33 that just came out, projects like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, right? These projects are made on much smaller budgets and therefore have the luxury of being able to come in at a lower price point and often are rewarded by much greater sales than what they otherwise normally would have had. Now you're going to have the AAA industry coming in at $80, giving even more wiggle room to these AA's that will probably take advantage of that for their own benefit. And so I think what we have right now, and people will say it's the gaming crash, and to an extent they're not wrong. I think what happened is the industry has become so top heavy because they've been trying to support a business model that really is not sustainable, right? These budgets that they're putting onto these games, when we can see relatively equal experiences coming from much smaller studios for much smaller budgets, it doesn't make sense. And to a degree, I feel like this is a situation in which these mega publishers need to get their own houses in order and are instead just kind of pushing it off on the consumer, hoping that we'll cover for their bad decisions. Gaming is going to be interesting going forward, right? Because there is going to be a lot less demand to go around. And I do think that these choices don't take into account the drop in demand that they will see as a result of this. Anyways, it's kind of crazy. I can't tell you. I'll tell you what I do think will happen before I let you go. I think what you're going to see is a migration to PC. There's already been a migration to PC, particularly over this generation, because there hasn't been particularly strong offerings. And really, the price increase has kept on going up on console. And we're getting to a point where there's less of a gap between buying a console and buying a PC. Now, mind you, not putting a 5090 with an i9 and just like going full out and building a $5,000 machine. But these consoles are not comparing themselves to $5,000 machines. I currently have a 7-year-old PC that can play any game possible right now, and probably will be able to do so for the better part of the next decade. So the idea is that, okay, PCs are such an upfront investment. Well, that investment keeps getting smaller and smaller compared to what it takes to buy yourself into a console. And part of, the play of a console is convenience, but the other part of the play of the console is price. And for the longest time, there's been a significant price difference between what it's taken to get into a console and what it's taken to get into PC gaming. And over the years, that has shrunk. And I think now we've kind of reached a point at which I think there will be significant shrinkage in the console space that will be picked up by the PC space. That's already been kind of happening. I think that will accelerate. Now, mind you, I do think there will probably be some increased price on PC components, but then again, you don't need to buy new components to make a PC capable of competing with these machines. You can go out and find components that have existed for quite a while now and be able to build yourself a rig that is more than capable of producing what you would get with an equivalent console. Anyways, guys, we are in uncharted territory. This is not something I think we have ever seen, this drastic of a price increase mid-generation. And while I do think that, yes, the tariffs do have a little bit to do with it, I also do believe that this is pretty much an excuse to do things that these companies wanted to do anyways. That's going to be it for this one, guys. If you found this useful, like always, helps me out with the algorithm. Subscribe would be super appreciated. I'm trying to produce more content. Anyways, we will catch you on the next one, guys. Until then, get awesome.